Welcome to Books in Action. I'm Jim Horton. What books should you be reading? What books will your children turn off the TV for? We're here with Laura Huemer of Goldfinch Books in Maplewood to discuss reading lists. And that's reading lists for children, young adults, and grown-ups. And I suppose that excludes me, Laura, among the grown-ups. Welcome once again. Where shall we start? We have a huge pile tonight, and I'm not sure that we're going to get through all of them, but I think we should give it the best of efforts. Where shall we start?
Okay, well, I'm a fast talker, so we'll try. I guess we should start with the book that I'm reading right now. This is a book that I'm just about through with. It just won the Man Booker Prize, The Inheritance of Loss. The author, Kieran Desai, her mother actually was shortlisted for the Man Booker Award 3 times, and now her daughter has won it, which is kind of a lovely aside. This book, though, is a beautifully written novel. It takes place in America, as it follows the trials of an Indian immigrant in America, and as well as there's a related story taking place in India that is about a retired judge, and it's just beautifully written, all about human struggle and the difficulty of keeping your hope alive as an immigrant, and I highly recommend it, unless the last 30 pages turn out to be a dud, but I don't think so.
There have been a number of young Indian writers who have done extraordinarily well in recent years. I can recall some that we have discussed here before. I wonder if there's something that, some cultural artifact there that is coming up with great writers from India.
Perhaps, and I have to say, it's not like it's something that I look for myself. I don't say I wish I could read more literature taking place in India, but I really would recommend this without reservation, and you would not find it to be similar to any of the other books that you've read set in India.
Okay.
So I recommend it.
I'll put this one down now and pick up. We're going to do a handoff tonight to the back of the chair. But here we go. This one here.
Yes, The Memory Keeper's Daughter is it's the hot book of this year. It's the Kite Runner of 2006, I would say. It is. It's just a solidly written story. It's about a doctor whose wife gives birth to twins. I'm not giving away a lot. This all occurs in a few pages in the beginning. His wife gives birth to twins, and one of the twins has Down syndrome, and he makes a snap decision to ask his nurse to take this twin away to an institution, and the nurse actually decides to raise the child herself. And as you can imagine, that creates a lot of complications later in life, and it's just a well-told story, good plot, good character development, and it's nice to see that it's on the bestseller list.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll now move to the next one, and this one is A Spot of Bother. That's a rather interesting title.
Yes, well, British, as you can imagine.
Yes.
This is by Mark Haddon. He wrote The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, which was enormously successful and well loved by our customers. This takes place in Britain, and it's about a 61-year-old man who has just retired and promptly has a nervous breakdown, and his family is chaotic, and there's his daughter's getting married, and there's just a lot going on, a lot of chaos around him, and in the end, of course, as you might imagine, in some fashion or another, the family pulls together, but it's amusing. There's a lot of wry British humor, and so I definitely enjoyed it.
With the title of A Spot of Bother,
yes,
you can see the humor leaking through right away.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on now to the next one we have here on the reading list. And this is Water for Elephants.
Yeah, I would call this the sleeper hit of 2006. It was not expected to be a big book, and it really has been. It's gorgeous character development. It takes place in the Great Depression, and it's a traveling circus, so as you can imagine, there are a lot of colorful characters. But there are also a lot of surprising plot twists, and you are expected to believe that an elephant can have a sophisticated personality, and I was able to believe that reading this book. So it was. I would recommend it, definitely.
Are
really
you
good
saying
story.
that the elephant is giving part of the story, or is that giving the story away?
It's implied. It's implied. Yes, I'm not going to. The elephant plays a huge role, actually. So.
So who's going to play the elephant in the movie? That's what I would like to.
Well, based on how well this is written, I can imagine an elephant can be trained to do this. So.
Okay. And this is the last nonfiction book coming up?
The last fiction,
last
yes,
fiction book,
that's correct.
coming up that we were going to be speaking of. And this is The Whole World Over.
Yes, I just wanted to bring this one. This is Julia Glass's new book, and she won the National Book Award for her previous novel, The Three Junes. And this is really, I'm hearing really good things about this from my customers as well as my staff. And I heard it's a nicely written book about the consequences of accidental occurrences and decisions that you make throughout your life, you know, the impact. In fact, apparently one of the characters is hit on the head with a tree branch, and that impacts her life because it actually affects her ability to think clearly. So I think it's charming, well told, you know, intertwined characters. So.
Now, are the many book groups that come to your store, most of them reading these fiction works right now?
A lot of them stay away from hardcover just because of the expense of buying a new book that they're not that familiar with necessarily each month. But this one has been popular. Water for Elephants. Memory Keeper's Daughter is hugely popular with the book clubs, and a really good choice too, because there's a lot of controversial issues to discuss from it.
And all of these would be, of course, very good for birthdays, holidays, and other special occasions,
Of course.
Okay, so I think now we are going to turn to nonfiction. Is that correct?
Good. Sounds good.
Okay, then I think the very first one in the nonfiction is Julie and Julia.
Yes, well, this is my favorite of this stack. This is the story of Julie Powell, who had a dead-end secretarial job that was not inspiring her in the least, and she was depressed about her life in general, so she decided to take a year and cook the 500-plus recipes from Mastering the Art of French Cooking. And this is nonfiction. While she does this project, she actually starts a blog on the internet. Have you heard about this? Yes.
Yes, I am familiar with this. I happen to be a blog writer myself, so I noticed it, yes.
There you go. There's a book ahead of you then, I guess. But this is really charming. She lives in Manhattan, and her adventures in finding the ingredients, in trying to pull together the recipes, the surprises of which recipes are actually tasty, and are just, it's the whole thing is really a lot of fun. So I would definitely recommend it to anybody who enjoys cooking, and anybody who enjoys fine food, I would say, could enjoy it as well.
Okay, that's terrific. I've heard very, very good things
about
this one.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
And the next one that we are going to turn to now is called Grayson.
Yes, this is written by Lynn Cox, who's an accomplished swimmer. She's swum the English Channel several times, and her previous book, Swimming to Antarctica, did very well. This is about a time when she was training off the coast of California and was actually joined by a baby gray whale.
No kidding.
Yes, who had apparently become separated from its mother and, and needed to rejoin its mother to survive the migration. So this is about her actions in trying to find the baby whale's mother and keep this whale alive.
That sounds very, very interesting.
Yeah, and apparently it's beautifully written. It's a real gem. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, now we're going to turn to one that sounds rather unusual. Scott's Almanac for 2007. I'm not aware of this one.
Oh, excellent. I'm so glad. I brought one you didn't know about. Well, this is traditionally a British publication, and this year is the first time that they have actually published an American version, and this is it. This is a book of interesting lists. I hesitate to call them trivial, and you can kind of get a taste for the flavor of it by looking at the back of the book. Because the back
let's turn over the back then so they can see the back of the book. I don't know if you can. You get untied on that and see if you can see it up close?
Well, I can tell you what the crux of it is.
It's a quadrant.
It's called an astrometer, and it plots famous people and whether their impact this year has been positive or negative on the world, and whether it has been transient or lasting. So you could have a positive lasting impact, you could have a transient negative impact. So there's all kinds of people from, Hillary Clinton to Paris Hilton. Those people are in opposite quadrants. But it's really it's an interesting, well-researched, excellent gift, especially for a man, I would say.
Okay, that's wonderful. And this, once again, is Scott's Almanac for 2007. That I assume that there will be a 2008. In other words, it comes out every year.
Well, yes, but this actually is
the first one in the U.S.
Yes, and it just was published. So this is the one for the beginning of 2007, I guess.
Okay,
so.
This time next year, then we should be looking for 2008.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Okay. That's great. Then the next book that we want to talk about, nonfiction, is The Mayflower.
Yes, Nathaniel Philbrick, I'm sure you know of him. He won the National Book Award for his book In the Heart of the Sea, and this, of course, is about the travels of the Mayflower to the U.S., and it's done very well. Yeah, he's really he's a well-regarded history writer. Do you read him yourself, or?
I don't recall the last Philbrick that I might have read. Actually, I've been working right now on Reformation history, which is sort of abstruse. But so I haven't been doing American history for the last 6 months.
Well,
or so.
Keep him in mind, because
I will definitely keep this in mind, particularly since sailing in that time period was not a pleasant occupation, to put it mildly.
I can imagine.
Yes. Okay. And of course, the one coming up, I think everyone who's aware of history knows about, and this is, of course, Team of Rivals, which I guess is still selling rather well?
It is selling very well, especially now that it's out in paperback, which is recent. Doris Kearns Goodwin, I haven't read this book of hers, but I've read some of her others, and she is just a charming, wonderful writer. She has a way of stating things in a straightforward, understandable, and yet interesting way. You know, so I've heard wonderful things. My husband, who's a big history buff, loved it, and he read it when it was in advanced reviews still. But
okay,
yeah,
and of course it's about one of the periods of American history for which there seems to be entire libraries, which is the Civil War.
Yes, but this is I like the angle that she's taken on this, which is the fact that Lincoln, as a great statesman, chose to fill his cabinet with his political rivals, which I think is such a courageous, interesting, issue.
Everyone at heart who, by the way, felt they could do the job better than he could.
Right.
Which was, I suppose, made it even funnier. And now, moving right along, this is Thunderstruck by Erik Larson.
Yes.
Who did White City, I believe.
Yes,
is that not correct?
The Devil in the White City.
Yes,
which it was a bestseller for a long, long time. And at the heart of Thunderstruck also is murder. Apparently the murderer in this case, who is in Edwardian London, is actually a very kind person in the rest of his life. And there's also an inventor involved. And so those two characters cross paths on a voyage, on an ocean liner, and there's just plenty of drama and intrigue, and it is nonetheless nonfiction.
That was something that I found truly amazing about this particular writer, is that he chooses stories that you almost are forced to believe are fiction, except they're not.
Yes, yes.
And when you read The Devil in the White City, it was just simply amazing that way. You could not believe that this was really true to life, but it was.
Sure, I can believe that. And in fact, a lot of women enjoyed The Devil in the White City. A lot of book clubs too of women who normally are exclusively fiction readers.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised to hear that.
It's because it's close to fiction. You almost can't believe it.
Yes, yes.
Okay, we're running out of time here for this section,
Okay.
so let me just very quickly bring up the last one, which is really quite interesting.
I think this is just beautiful. This is a gorgeous new book that's been published, which is the Constitution. And maybe you can open it, Jim. Can you show
Yes,
a
I'll
page?
be happy to do that. It's got a lot of beautiful illustrations in it,
Yes.
and I think we should try to see some of these. Look
It's
at that one.
Illustrated version of the Constitution. It does also include the Benjamin Franklin's address to the delegates signing the Constitution, and I think it's lovely. I think it'll be a really nice gift book for the holidays.
Okay, well, we have to take a break. We are going to be back very shortly.
If you're not helping after-school programs, you're really helping to take them away. After-school programs, wouldn't you rather be helping?
About, because these are all local authors. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Okay, let me bring this stack over here. We're working through the stack rather well. We actually can see part of the tabletop now. And this very first book is What I Know Now, Letters to My Younger Self.
This is really a fascinating book. Ellen Spragans, who actually no longer lives in Maplewood, I have to say, but she does still live in New Jersey and has a lot of strong connections still here in town. And she pulled together this compilation of letters written by famous people in all different fields. They're written by these people to themselves as a younger person. And Ellen allowed them to choose at what age they were writing to themselves. So some people, for example, wrote themselves a letter that they wish they could have read when they gave birth to their first child, or when they lost their first job. So maybe they would write a letter saying, don't worry, things will work out, or appreciate your child while they're a baby, or whatever. And the assortment of people that she has on there are just, there's, you know, Cokie Roberts and Macy Gray and Madeleine Albright, just Queen Noor, Olympia Dukakis, a really interesting assortment of people. And I think this is I would call it a gift book, but there's nothing lightweight about it. It's they took it seriously, and it's a really interesting read.
Great. It's inspirational, I'm assuming, as
It
well?
is. It is, yes.
Okay. Now, this one is rather interesting. This is The Bridges of Central Park.
Yes, I'm excited about this. Jennifer Spiegler and Paul Gaykowski live in Maplewood, and they're both photographers, and they just recently contacted me. They're going to be into the store to do an event in the spring, but they just had this book published on the bridges of Central Park, and it's beautifully done.
Let me see if I can open it up here and see if we can get to there's a good sample page right here. Maybe we can get tight on this and show it to you.
Yeah, it's
very lovely.
It's a lovely collection of photographs that they've taken in Central Park, as well as historical photographs. And it's published, in fact, by the same publisher that did the next book that we're going to discuss, Arcadia. But this is actually a bit of a departure for them. You can see it's a larger format, and they added a little color on the cover. So I think they really did a nice job.
That's terrific. Okay, and moving right along, here's one that I'm sure you're going to have a very good seller. South Orange Revisited.
Yes,
I love these books. where these are what I'm assuming historical photos of South Orange.
Yes, and with fairly lengthy captions and some information. I'm surprised you're able to hold that for so long, because it is literally hot off the presses. It was just published yesterday. So I'm very excited about it. These books really sell well. People love having them. Naoma Welk is a South Orange resident, and this is her brand new book. She also wrote the first book published about South Orange by Arcadia. This one, however, is organized differently. This one's organized chronologically, and also includes information about what was happening in the world during each 20-year period. The photograph on the cover is actually the Independence Day Parade in 1915 in South Orange. So I'm sure that we'll have no trouble selling it, and I'm very excited that there's another book about South Orange.
And I'm sure if one looks closely enough, the buildings in the background, some of them are still
I'm sure.
right where they were in 1915.
Indeed.
So that's wonderful. This sort of thing I've always found these to be great fun. Particularly when you know the location, like we know South Orange and Maplewood very, very well, and you can you can go walk around and say it was right at that spot. That's where this happened.
Absolutely.
It's
and
amazing.
Naoma actually has also told me that a lot of the photographs in this book have never been published before. So,
that's
and
wonderful.
they are all completely new none of them are repeats from the first book. So
that's terrific. And this one is called It's a Hummingbird's Life by Irene Kelly.
Yes, and I brought this in. It's a Hummingbird's Life has actually been out for a little more than a year, but Irene, who's one of our really talented children's book authors in town, in Maplewood, is coming out in the spring with It's a Butterfly's Life. And she assures me that it'll be just as lovely as this book, which I love selling. It's nonfiction, but just full of charm. And she gave me, tonight I spoke to her on the phone, and she gave me a little tidbit about the butterfly book. She said that she has recently discovered that there are actually butterflies that go underwater.
No kidding.
Were you aware of that?
No, that I wasn't aware of. I wasn't.
Yeah.
The illustrations here are just marvelous.
Yes.
I don't know if you can pick them up on the camera, but those are gorgeous
I know.
illustrations.
She's a wonderful, wonderful artist. She really is. And she really takes great care in finding fascinating facts about her subjects.
That's great. Okay, and then moving right along, we have another children's book. And this is A Day at the Beach by Ed Bryant.
Yes, this is an enormously popular local author. His previous book, 7 Stories, which is set in the city, did very well for us. And this is just a charming book about a panda family visiting the beach. And I just wanted to bring it in. I know he has a lot of fans in town, and it's just an easy book to sell.
And the illustrations on it, of course, once again, are also very, very lovely.
They really are, yes.
Great. Okay, so for another local author coming up, and this is our last of the local authors, this is The Brambles by Eliza Minot.
I think it's Minot.
Minot,
and yes,
okay.
and it's. I'm very excited about this. You know, we are so fortunate to have so many talented authors and artists in our towns. Eliza got tremendous amount of press coverage for this book because several other members of her family are also writers. They're a fairly famous family of writers, and her first book, The Tiny One, that I also read years ago, was critically acclaimed. This book got a glowing review in the New York Times Book Review, and as well there was an extensive article in the Times Magazine.
Yes,
did you
I do
see
remember that.
Yes.
Yes, I remember it quite clearly.
It was very interesting, and the book is a wonderful read. One of the highlights for local people is that it takes place in a town called Mayfield Heights, I think it is, and which is a very thinly disguised Maplewood. So there are lots of details that you would recognize from suburban New Jersey life. So
it almost makes one worried to be living here. You're afraid you're going to end up in somebody's book. Maybe you might get killed off by the butler. You never know. You're right.
Well, the parts that you would recognize actually are these lyrical descriptions of how lovely life in suburban New Jersey is. So it's, you know, from watching your kid play soccer to, you know, sitting in the backyard with a glass of wine on the deck. And she really has a nice way with words.
That's terrific. Okay, now we're going to turn on our reading lists to young adults. And I think we have, what, 2 here for the young adults tonight that we're looking at?
Yeah, I just brought a couple.
And this one, of course, the movie is going to be out very shortly.
Absolutely. And I can highly recommend the book Aragon. I read it, I guess it was about 2 years ago with my son. It got a lot of press because it was written by a young man, a young homeschooled man, and he did just a beautiful, sophisticated job writing this book. It's about a young boy who finds a shiny stone, blue stone, that he tries to sell in the market, and he discovers that in fact it's a dragon's egg, and he is destined to raise this dragon and save civilization from evil. So,
and what age is this roughly? From what, 10, 11
I would say, yeah, 9, 10, 11. A strong 9-year-old could read it. It is sophisticated. It doesn't move as fast as Harry Potter by any means, and there's a lot more description and character development. But I think those are strengths, personally. So,
terrific.
Yeah.
Okay, then moving right along, and we have here, oh my, we have The End.
I'm afraid
Lemony
so.
Snicket, The End. This is
I guess we should have ended with that one.
Yes. This is the book that I guess will leave a lot of young folks depressed, right? Because
well,
it's
yes.
the last book of the series.
Yes, indeed. And Lemony Snicket has really done very well. I was fortunate enough to meet him with my son, a year or 2 ago at one of his book events, and I just love his sense of humor. The other thing I love about it is how he doesn't talk down to kids.
Mm-hmm.
He uses sophisticated words, and if he thinks it's appropriate, he defines those words. And it's really a fun series. And of course, Daniel Handler, who is Lemony Snicket, did embark upon a 13-city tour on on Friday the 13th when this was released. So he's true to his superstitious leanings right to the end.
And of course, you will not reveal the ending, I'm assuming.
Oh, of course not. No.
No. So we don't know what Count Olaf is going to end up doing.
No, but I can say that I've heard by all accounts that it is one of the best in the series.
That's great. All righty. So now we'll turn to the children's books, and we still have quite a pile left to go here. And I suppose the very first one I find is this is sort of a do-it-yourself kind of a book, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
this is tiaras.
Yes,
I
well,
guess you make your own tiara?
yes, I think you should.
Every princess should make her own tiara?
Indeed. I just wanted to highlight just a couple of trends that we've seen in the store with children's books, and lately for the girls, princess books have been really popular, which is a lot of fun, I think. It's really a kind of a traditional, wholesome interest, and so they've come up with a number of craft books related to princesses as well.
And this, if I read it correctly, is part of the Klutz series, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yes, that's for me.
Yes, okay.
Great, okay. And following right along in the same theme is a book of princesses.
Yes, and this is just a retelling of a number of classic princess stories, and it's kind of nice to see these things selling well, you know, because it's Cinderella and it's all the princess stories that we.
And what age would this be for, roughly?
Oh, that can be, you know, it can be read to I'd say 4 or 5-year-old and up, and then maybe up to a 9-year-old would be interested in reading it, I'd say.
Okay, that's terrific. And boy, we are thematic tonight.
Yes.
Imagine you're a princess. Okay.
I really like this this series of books. I have another one over here for the boys for their pirate interest, but it's just a nice, clever illustrations, a little bit edgy but not dark. So I like it. I think they're nicely put together.
That is a very lovely
Isn't it?
illustration there.
Yeah.
That's great. And finally, I guess this is the final one in this series,
Yes,
right?
yes,
in
yes.
the princess series?
Yes.
And I suppose this should have been first because this is a princess primer.
Yes, yes. And if you open the first page, actually, Jim, the one of the charming little tidbits that they have in there is how to choose the cloth of your gown and how to pick the gem for your tiara, etc.
Yes,
So.
what every aspiring princess needs to know.
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
We're getting short on time, so I guess
Sure.
what we need to do is to go through some of the boys' books here as quickly
Sure.
as possible, and these look a little thematic as well.
Yes.
And this one is Piratology, and it comes with its own compass built right into the cover. I like that.
Oh, these ology books have been tremendously successful, and I guess perhaps following the success of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, pirate books have been really, really hot lately for little boys. So
they've taken over dinosaur books then, I guess.
yes, I would say so.
Wow,
I would say so.
that's a big shift.
Yes, yes.
Okay, it looks like we are basically out of time, so I'm just going to mention very quickly here a couple more. How to be a pirate, just in case you don't know how to do your ARG. And then the next one is Imagine You're a Pirate, which is the next book in the series. And the final one is How I Became a Pirate, and we'll just hold that up very briefly. So that's the reading list that we've been going through tonight. And Laura Huemer of Goldfinch Books in Maplewood, I want to thank you very, very much for stopping by Books in Action and telling us what to read.
My pleasure.
Thank you again. Thank you for watching. I'm Jim Horton.